You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag
For what?
with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club,
Why?
buy some bottles, impress them girls.
what?
It's more than life.
Oh, fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And I'm Ethan. And the first thing I want to get to is I want to shout out one of my new subscribers, and that's Vilma Cooley. And I'm very thankful and very appreciative for you subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate anyone that subscribes, shares, likes, comments, and anyone that does that. If I can identify you, you have a channel yourself, I can identify you, I'll shout you out. I really appreciate anyone that does that. So yeah, Vilma Cooley, yeah, I really appreciate you. Thanks for subscribing and becoming another one of my followers. I really appreciate anyone that follows me and what likes my content. It really makes me feel good. So I appreciate that, Vilma. The other thing I want to get to is I guess I got a little overzealous on the last podcast, and I didn't close out the last podcast getting through the hot takes and the score predictions from the Steelers game. So let's get right into that and get through those. We rather wish to have already forgot about that game, get that out of my mind. So can I get a menu and let's get that out of the way. I'd like to get that memory, just can't erase that from my memory. So let's get that out of the way right now. So my hot take for that game was TJ Watt getting 2 sacks. I was conservative, saying that he was going to get 2 sacks in that game, but he was actually he didn't have as big a game as we thought. Ryan Ramczyk kind of shut him down, which in the previous game, I think that was in 2018 when we still had Drew Brees, and both those teams were on a roll going into playoffs. That was maybe the game of the year in 2018 when the Saints were a Super Bowl or bust team. That was an amazing game. Antonio Brown hadn't lost his mind and had like 180 something receiving yards, around 180 something yards receiving, and Michael Thomas had a crazy game in that. I think Sheldon Rankins had like the forced fumble to seal that game. But I think Ryan Ramczyk did a pretty good job of containing TJ Watt in that game as well. But yeah, TJ Watt did a good job of pretty much shutting him down in that game. So he ended up only having like 4 tackles, 2 solo, 2 assists, 1 tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. So he didn't have any sacks in that game. And then for Chris Olave, I was hoping that he would get a touchdown in this game, but he only ended up having like 4 catches for 40 yards and no touchdowns. And they said it was a pass deflection by Arthur Mollett, but I would more along the lines on that deep pass in the early, I think that was in the first quarter before the Saints scored any points. I would have marked it down more as a drop than anything. So he didn't have, and I think that came off of like 6 or 7 targets. But I was pretty disappointed in that drop. And the reason I was wanting them to have that target, I think he's in a pretty close race with Kenneth Walker for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But then Kenneth Walker, we needed the Seahawks really badly to beat the Buccaneers so we could keep pace with them. And it seems like anytime we need a team to beat the Buccaneers, they just can't do it. And the Seahawks, they're the first, they're not first in their division in the NFC West, and they were really on a hot streak ever since the Saints beat them. They've been really hot and on a roll, and Kenneth Walker's been amazing, has had like 570 yards and 7 touchdowns coming into that game. And what does he do against the Buccaneers? He had 10 carries for 17 yards, no touchdowns, and he was actually more effective through the air. He had 6 catches for 55 yards and no touchdowns. So yeah, he was real helpful in that game. So I would say they're about even still in that race because he didn't do much on the ground to help us in that game. With I think they ended up losing to the Bucks. Was the final score? I think the final score of that game was like 21-15. So they didn't do a lot to help the Saints, just like the Rams the week before didn't do a lot to help the Saints. But I don't think it's going to matter that much anyways because of how poorly the Saints are playing at the moment. And then my score prediction, I predicted the Saints would lose anyways, and my score was the Steelers would win 24-20. So I was way off on how many points. I was generous on how many points I thought the Saints would score. Half of what they actually scored. They only scored 10 points. Very, very disappointing that they were only actually able to put up 10 points. That's I don't even know what to say. That's just embarrassing. Only being able to put up 10, 20 points. It's just ridiculous considering how much of a juggernaut offensively this team has been over the last 16 years or so. But Drew Brees and Sean Payton aren't here anymore, so I guess it should be expected. But the score for the Steelers wasn't far off. They only scored 20 points, but probably should have been closer to that score, honestly, if their kicker could have made two of the missed field goals, 24-26. But yeah, wasn't right on the score, but I was half right with who won the game. I picked the Steelers, and the Steelers did win. So that's enough of what I should have finished off the last podcast with. So on to the injury report for the Rams Saints game on Sunday, and it is just awful. You would think that this injury report and the injuries couldn't get worse. You would think it couldn't get worse. You think at some point it could get better, but it can always get worse. Just remember that anything in life, when you think things can't get worse, it can always get worse. I guess until you're dead, until someone dies, I guess it can always get worse, which you never want that to happen. You never want someone to be deceased, of course, but it can always get worse. Unless you get maimed or killed, it can always get worse. So it is ugly. I think this is the worst injury report they have had all year because this is just bad. They have 7 players out this week. I think against the Steelers last week they had 5, so they've added 2 to this week against the Rams. So I'll just go over this. I would say I'd go over it real quick, but I don't think I can go over it real quick with how many players are on this list. So we have Josh Andrews, who was the backup center against the Steelers, and he was with an illness. He did not practice on Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday, and he was full on Friday, and he has no game designation. We have Marcus Davenport with a calf, did not practice all week. He is out. We have JT Gray, hamstring, did not practice all week. He is out. James Hurst with a concussion, did not practice all week. He is out. Mark Ingram, knee, did not practice all week. He is out. Cameron Jordan with an eye, did not practice all week. This will be the second game of his career, of his stalwart career, that he has missed a game. He missed his first game of his career last week due to COVID. I guess it's because this season has been so crappy that he's out. He must have pink eye or something. I don't know what the real reason that he has an eye injury. I don't know what the actual eye reason is caused for, but he must have got poop or something in his eye. That's why he's got pink eye or something. I don't know. Jarvis Landry, ankle, limited all week, no injury designation. Marshawn Lattimore, abdomen, did not practice all week. He is out, and I saw something where he has a kidney laceration and 2 broken ribs. That's what he got hurt with. Who was that against? Did that happened against the Vikings in the Vikings game? Or no, not the Vikings game. What game did that happen in? Man, I'm trying to think. Maybe that was in the Bengals game that happened in. He's been out since that game. No, that happened in the Seahawks game that happened in. That happened on one of the deep touchdown passes to Tyler Lockett. He's been out since that game. And yeah, he's been out ever since that game. And he so that's what I heard and saw, that he has a lacerated kidney and 2 broken ribs. So I don't know why he hasn't been put on IR yet, and just at this point in the season, I would just want him just put on season-ending IR. I don't know why they expect him to even come back from something like that, because I also seen like conflicting reports of how they've already used up like 4 of their return spots, because you only have 8 return spots of the part-time IR, and they don't want to use up all their part-time IR because they've already used 4 of them, and they'll expect to use 2 more of them for other players. And like, do you really want one of your best players to come back from something like that this season, when there's such a slim chance that you're actually gonna make the playoffs or win the NFC South? Like, I wouldn't even risk it with something with an injury like that. Anyways, Marcus May, abdomen as well, but he was limited all week, no injury designation. Andres Pete, tricep, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was limited on Friday. He's listed as questionable. Ryan Ramczyk, illness, did not practice on Wednesday, and then was limited on Thursday and Friday, no injury designation. Malcolm Roach, limited all week, no injury designation. And then Pete Warner did not practice all week and is out. And I heard that he had ankle surgery, must have been tightrope surgery, or must have went in there to clean up some ligaments or something. And I also saw a report report that he is actually expected to play again at some point this season. So probably had his foot cut off or amputated. So you'll probably never see him again. It'll probably be something like the Michael Thomas situation. So you'll probably never actually see him ever again. He'll probably never play again. His foot has probably been cut off. And then the Los Angeles Rams, they look really healthy in comparison to the Saints. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous how the Saints are just completely ravished. It looks like a nuclear bomb has gone off in their locker room, and then you see other teams' injury reports, and they're just healthy as can be in comparison. And it looks like they're a West Coast team, so they haven't practiced yet, at least up to date for what I'm reading off. So Matthew Stafford, of course, he didn't play last week, but he's going to be healthy for this game. He had a concussion. He was full Wednesday and Thursday, probably won't have an injury designation. John Wolford, neck, didn't practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday. Center Brian Allen did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. Traven Howard, hip, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. Defensive tackle Sean Robinson, illness, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. And defensive tackle Greg Gaines, elbowed, limited practice Wednesday and full Thursday. So they're pretty healthy in comparison. And then, I take that back a little bit because Cooper Kupp is on IR because he had an ankle surgery similar to Pete Werner, because he did have tightrope surgery. That was confirmed that he had the tightrope surgery on his ankle, and he is out for indefinitely, or out for possibly, maybe will come back at some point this season, probably only if they're on a playoff push. But the Rams have been probably just as bad as the Saints this season, and with how they've been playing, probably a little definitely healthier, but they just lost their best receiver, one of the best receivers in the league, due to ankle injury. But yeah, they actually got beat last week by the Arizona Cardinals with Colt McCoy as the starting quarterback, but they were starting that John Wolford. That it was John Wolford versus Colt McCoy led Arizona Cardinals. But of course, Matthew Stafford's going to be back for this game, so it's Saints are just a get right team this season for any team that plays them. So on to some game breakdown stats. So some players to look for or look out for the Rams. So Matthew Stafford, he hasn't been great this season. He's completed 195 of his passes for 285 attempts, 68.4 completion percentage. Not terrible completion percentage for 1,929 yards, with a 2.8 average. He's 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, so his touchdown interception ratio is not great. He's been sacked 28 times, so he's definitely not having a great season. And then he was hurt just last week. That was because of a concussion, so it's be interesting to see how he's faring coming off of that. And just similar to the Steelers last week, their rushing game is terrible. Their leaders in rushing, maybe the worst in the league. They're even worse because Najee Harris coming into the game against the Steelers, he had about 400 yards rushing coming into the league. Their leading rusher, uh, Darrell Henderson Jr., he has 68 attempts for 274 yards. That is just terrible. With his average is pretty good, 4 yards average, only 3 touchdowns. That's a 30.4 yards a game. That's just awful. And then second leading rusher is Cam Akers for 62 attempts, 76 yards, and that's a 2.8 yard attempt, zero touchdown, 1 touchdown. That's terrible. Like that's worse than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But though with how the Saints have been, like I said, they've been a get right team. Either Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers will come in here and probably rush for close to 100 yards. And then no point in even reading off Cooper Kupp's stats because he's not even going to play in this game. And then if you take Cooper Kupp away, their other leading receivers, their stats are not impressive either. Because, I mean, Cooper Kupp has like 800 yards receiving and 75 catches, but Tyler Higbee, who's a tight end, has 44 receptions off of 65 targets for 385 yards, 0 touchdowns. And then Allen Robinson, who's been a big disappointment. He was supposed to be like a marquee free agent signing for them to replace like Odell Beckham Jr. and Robert Woods, but he's been a big disappointment for them. He's only had 29 catches for 47 targets, off of 47 targets for 292 yards and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, they've been very underwhelming besides Cooper Kupp and in the rushing game. Very, very interesting what they'll do against the Saints defense that's been very underwhelming as well. And then on the defense, their defense has been putting up numbers. They have superstar names all across the board. Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, all guys that could definitely come in and put up a performance against the Saints' stagnant offense. Bobby Wagner has 73 total tackles, 43 solo, 30 assists, three sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections. Jalen Ramsey has 43 tackles, 35 solo, 9 assists. He has 2 sacks as well, 9 pass deflections, 1 interception. Aaron Donald has 42 tackles, 22 solo, 20 assists. It's the 5 sacks that worries me. The 8 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections. Looks like he is their leading sacker. So yeah, those are probably their biggest names on their team, on their defense at least. And then on to the hot takes. I just just mentioned Aaron Donald. So just like uh, uh, just like um, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers leading sacker last week, he had 2 sacks. I predict Aaron Donald to have 2 sacks in this game against the Saints beat up offensive line because we know for sure that James Hurst and Eric McCoy are going to miss this game. It's to be decided if Andres Pete's going to miss this game because he's questionable. But if I was to guess, he probably will. And then Juwan Johnson, it seems like he's a king of garbage time touchdowns. So my guess is he's already has, I think he has 4 of those this season. So my guess he's gonna catch his 5th garbage time touchdown in this game. And for my score prediction, I just don't have a lot of faith in the Saints right now. So I think there's going to be same kind of score discrepancy that there was in the Steelers Saints game. So I think there's going to be a 10-point score differential, but I think the score is going to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to pick the Rams to win this one, 27-17. I got a little more hope that maybe the Saints can score a little more points, but I think the Rams are going to be able to put up a little more points because Matthew Stafford's not a rookie quarterback, and maybe there's some more veteran wide receivers with Allen Robinson, and maybe Aaron Donald may force a fumble, or Bobby Wagner may get a turnover, or Jalen Ramsey may get an interception or something, putting them in better field position, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers got 2 interceptions last week as well, even though one of them was more of a game stiller at the end of the game. But I think that's all I have for you. And who dat? And can I get a check, please?